Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take about 30 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders, business owners, to provide you some great Ironman mindsets to help you scale your business, to become a better leader and push yourself out of a comfort zone into something that's going to stretch you. We hope you really enjoy these shows and encourage you to like and share with your friends, your network, family members. Try and get a wider audience and improve our industry. On each show, I'm going to try and pull out one type of Ironman mindset, insight that you can take back to your business. And if you're implementing one insight every single week or all the shows, then it's going to make a dramatic improvement to your business. Super excited as well to share that we're partnering up with Boss Business Management Software, which is the ultimate cloud-based solution providing comprehensive insights and tools to optimize performance. Join the Boss community today and transform your business so you too can say, my boss is working for me. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. Really excited today to be joined by Jenny Girard. Jenny, good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I know we tried to do this a little while back and we had some technical issues, so good to get you back on. And I wanted to make sure that we really discussed your topics. So I appreciate your time and jumping back on again.
Absolutely.
So just for the audience, tell them all a little bit about your background, please.
Absolutely. So I have been fortunate enough to be in this industry, in the green industry, for over 15 years, and I love to explore. So I've kind of dabbled a little bit in everything. I do have my bachelor's degree in plant science, and I started off working in high-end production for Longwood Gardens, that high-end production in horticulture in general. Beyond that, I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for Busch Gardens in Florida, and I built one-of-a-kind projects and mosaic sculptures, one of which was the largest, was over 20 feet tall, with over 300,000 living plants in them. So that was quite an experience, but it taught me that I loved talking about nature, and I loved talking with people and meeting people. So naturally, I went into account management within landscape because it kind of married both of those things. And I did that for a bit in Florida, and then I missed home. So I moved back to Buffalo, New York, and that's where I met Brett Lemke with RM Landscape. And there I helped build his new branch in Buffalo, New York, running operations and account management, and eventually was asked to be brought in as the strategic coordinator for the whole corporate. Now I've transitioned a little bit on the opposite side because I really still do love this industry. It's not so much with the plants day to day, which, I do miss a little bit, but I love helping people move forward in this industry and grow their businesses. So naturally, I went to Boss Software, and here I can leverage that extensive industry experience I've had and all of the, different things that I've done within that. And I get to implement the new software with the new clients. And, I get to see them optimize their operations and improve their efficiencies. And it just really marries with all my passions, which finally I'm actually going for my MBA, which full circle just really drives that passion of that operations excellence. And I really want to make an impact in this industry. And help people.
I remember some of the trips I made down to Florida, Disney, Busch Gardens, and just to see some of the details, some of those sculptures, unbelievable. Just that
yeah.
All the work that is involved and how much a display they put on. So that must have been super cool.
It was, yeah. It was. I don't lie when I say it was a once in a lifetime. I got the offer, and I was like, I'm moving from Albany, New York to Tampa, Florida. I'm going to do that because I don't think there's ever another time in my life when I would have been able to do something like that. So
sure.
Jumped on. I was like, let's do it.
Nice. I love it. So, and slightly better weather compared to the two as well.
No hurricanes.
Yes, was true. Good point.
Blizzards. Still bad, but Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I suppose it's good and bad with both places. So, but I also believe, we were obviously talking offline, and I believe, one of your other career highlights just happened recently. I think at last year's Elevate, correct?
It was, yeah. I had the privilege to sit on a panel of people that we had our first ever at, the national level conversation about mental health. And for me, that was such a huge highlight because I've been kind of pushing this message, and to anybody that'll listen. And, and so to sit on that panel and experience that and Elevate. And when we started off the whole conversation of doing this, and I'll never forget, we were sitting in a room, the panelists, and we're like, well, I hope everybody, somebody will show up. But it's okay if they don't. We'll still drive the message. At least it's on, out there. It was a packed room. And it didn't stop there, because we had campfires afterwards, and that was standing room only. And it was amazing to see how much impact that had, because people came up and they shared stories, and then outside of that room, those conversations continued, and they still continue to this day. So I talked to the panelists, and I've heard them say, yeah, people are still reaching out and talking to me, and it's great. We've lit a fire, and it's just taken off, and it's amazing.
Here you are. You're thinking, maybe a few people will show up to have then a packed room, continued conversations. And I think what strikes me the most is, especially if you have a packed room or packed around a campfire, people are willing to share their stories. Because a lot of the time,
Absolutely.
they don't necessarily, they have that wall up. So obviously it must have been such a comfortable environment, or you must have struck a chord with people during that panel discussion.
Absolutely. I mean, people shared, just even panelists alone. Some of those panelists, Terry Williams, he's a veteran. And the story he shared, I mean, there wasn't, I want to say not a dry eye in the room. I'm sorry, but he has such a moving story and experience. And then the people, the participants, their stories. And I think it was just in that sense of, this has been needing to happen for so long, this conversation. And it really drives me to why this is my mission, because I love this industry and I love the folks in it. And they're so much like myself. I think that's why I identify with them so well. And It's one of those things where we just don't talk about it. And it's in general in life. It's not just our industry, but especially with our industry, because we are tough. We are tough people. We do tough jobs. It's not an easy job to go out and work in the soil and grow things and all the hardships that come with this industry. And, it's one of those things where I've noticed that people in this industry really need to talk about. And I think it opened the door, right? Because they're like, well, there's people here at a national conference sitting on a panel talking about this. So I'm not alone. And I think that's the biggest part with mental health, where while you're going through whatever it is, you feel alone. You feel like you're the odd man out. And you kind of isolate yourself. And when you're in that space, and then to walk in a room like that and see how many people are interested, how many people are speaking about it, and now you don't feel so alone.
That's so true. So true. Why, obviously you started talking about this a while back, but what were some of the things that, I suppose, why did you want to talk about this? I mean, is that something you've experienced? Is that something you've seen other people around you experience?
Yeah. So I battle with, my own mental health. I have PTSD and I have really bad anxiety. And I've been battling that since college. And, I pushed it away for so long and ignored it. I'm fine until I wasn't fine. And, when you ignore it for long enough, it kind of explodes in your face. And I watched the destructive path it left in my career, in my personal life, and all of the things that I pushed aside. And then my own health was affected, right? My physical health. And I just saw all of the things it did to me. And I wanted to be a person that went out and started talking about it, because it was what I realized what somebody had done for me. And they shared their experience. And in that moment, when they shared that raw experience of what they were going through, it normalized it to me. And I think that's one of the hard things while you're going through this, because you cannot see it. You can't touch it, right? If you had a broken bone, there'd be no question. You'd be like, I'm going to the hospital. I got to go get my arm fixed, right? But you go through these things and you're like, oh, it's just my head, or I'm just being lazy, or I'm just tired, or all of the things, right? I'm not stressed out. It is a big deal. And I would tell myself all of these things. And in reality, no, it wasn't normal, right? And I had a broken arm, but it was in my brain. So I want to make sure people know that it's okay not to be all right, and you are going to go through these things, and even burnout. I mean, burnout is a real thing in our industry, especially at that high level. If you're an owner or a CEO or, that high level executive, you have a lot of stress. I've watched so many people throughout my career, and I just want to be an advocate to share that it's okay to talk about this, and it doesn't make you any less of a person.
Do you think that's the reason why people tend to sort of hide it and shelter it? It's just either, is it ego? Is it sort of showing, potentially showing people that they've got some weakness there? What do you think? Or is it just a taboo subject? What do you think some of the reasons why people have sort of held it back?
All of them.
All of the above.
All of the above, because it's so dependent on the person, right? And what their situation is. And I think one of the biggest things leading up to prior to COVID, it was kind of taboo. I mean, think, 20 years ago, where we were at in talking about mental health to where we are now post-COVID. There has been this huge jump to talk about it. And I don't know if it was because people were isolated with their own thoughts for so long that they're like, oh, you know what, maybe this isn't normal. I don't know. It's really dependent on the person, from what I've seen from people, where they just don't feel comfortable. It could be, even cultural. They were raised to believe that, mental health isn't a thing. I've had those conversations. It could go all the way to how you were raised and what you were told and what you believe in. People have misconceptions a lot about mental health too, and what it is. They think it has to be the extreme situations when they hear it, and they think to themselves, oh, that's not me. I'm not that person. And it's, very well so, maybe you're not, but it's also not normal to be so stressed out that you can't shut down, right? You can't turn off. You can't be present in the moment. And so it's these other smaller things that eventually build up upon each other, and they make a significant difference in your life.
You touched on something earlier where, often in that leadership, that ownership role, you're supposed to be coming in every day, and you're supposed to sort of lead by example, and you're leading a team. And even though there's, it could be anything. It could be your own mental health issues. It could be, hurricanes, which is what we're experiencing now, or other world events. And you're supposed to sort of show that leadership. You're supposed to set the example. You're supposed to show that toughness per se. I mean, that must be challenging for people who are being hit at all different angles. And meanwhile, they're supposed to be leading others. That could be 5 people, it could be 100 people. Mm-hmm. Give me your thoughts around that.
When I said I love to explore, I really do. So when I was in my undergraduate studies, I really took a lot of different psychology courses, and then like human anatomy and physiology, so I could kind of understand it, because it's always piqued my interest. Even before I knew I had something wrong, I was curious, right? And so something I tend to still do, I read what's coming in all these different research articles, and they state the level of stress that an owner or a CEO has is beyond, the normal person, obviously. But at the same time, they are the least likely to take a mental health day. It is for those reasons, like you said, I have to show up. I have to be the person. I'm the only one that can do this and show my team. And so what would it show if I said I couldn't come in today because I just wasn't there mentally? Well, what it shows to your team is it has actually a flip effect. And with the studies that I've read about is that if the leader doesn't take that day, they're actually less effective. They become less efficient, right? And they start making the wrong decisions. When leaders take a day to reset and to gain back, turn off and reset themselves, they actually come back more efficient. They're more apt to go through challenges. They are in a different mental state. And so what you're showing your team at that point is that this is a priority, because your mental health is no different if you had the flu. I mean, could you imagine telling your team to come in that they're, having the worst flu of their life, and you're like, why aren't you here? But no one would question that. But if you tell someone, I'm just not here mentally today, people have this conception that either A, people are going to judge me, what are they going to think about this, and all of the things that lead into that. And so as a leader, you have to be the example. Absolutely. And so you need to take that mental health day. You need to prioritize your mental health, and your team will see that it's accepted and that it's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Well, I mean, how do you start that? I mean, is there certain signs or triggers or something that just pops up? Give me some examples or what you should look for.
I should have pulled up there's the National Health Organization. You can just Google the signs of burnout. That's usually the one I would refer to. But one of the most common ones is you're short-tempered, right? Because you can't take in anymore. Your bottle is full. You cannot, and you would be, when I say short-tempered, you lose a fuse over small things that are insignificant. Talk to your loved ones, right? The people that are in your circle, ask them their opinion of you and how you're doing, because they're dealing with you outside of work. And how is your home life? How are you at home, and how are you experiencing life? Brain fog, it's a big one, because again, you just can't take in anymore. You're having really difficult time with critical decisions, and you're just what I like to call the blank. It's just you just stare that out in the blankness, and you just not even simple words too. Like when I was at I've been at really high peaks of burnout, and I could not think of simple words. Like I'll never forget. I couldn't think of the word light bulb. I sat there for a good 30 minutes, and I'm like, what's the thing that puts the light out? and I'm sitting there trying to tell my husband, I'm like, it's this thing. And he's like, a light bulb? I was like, yes, that's the word.
That's funny. That's funny.
But I'm sure everybody's experienced that, where they've gone so far and so hard that you cannot function. And then the final, if you look this up, the final part is you'll start having physical ailments, right? You'll feel sick. You'll become sick more often. You can get the colds more often, but it's just your body starting to shut down because stress will weigh on your body.
One of the things that we talked about last time or recently was, the whole Ironman mindset, the physical piece. I wrote that book, a few years ago, the Ironman mindset for entrepreneurs, and that's interesting because I've been noticing it's getting more and more sales recently. And I think, obviously I can't tell exactly why, but, I suspect, some of the mental health issues, some of the challenges now people are having in business. I mean, I've noticed a big group created recently. It's on my WhatsApp, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people now that are all business owners who are struggling because of the slowdown. Their business is affected, and I don't know if it's that selection or some of the world affairs, but there's a lot of struggling business owners out there. And to have that Ironman mindset where you can usually push yourself through some type of a sprint or initial challenge, but you need to set yourself up for that long distance, that endurance piece. I don't know whether you've experienced that, whether you've seeing some of that long-term endurance, or just trying to set yourself for that long-term success?
When I had finally hit a wall and recognized I needed help, much like that Iron Man mindset, I needed coaches. I needed help. I needed people that knew what I was doing, I needed to do. And so I got those trainers in the form of therapy, because I needed to train my mind to work through these things, because, anxiety, for example, or even PTSD, you have to rework your brain, because that's how your brain functions. It's how it's going to continue to function. And so you need to train yourself to think differently. Otherwise, talking about long endurance, this is lifetime, right? This isn't going to go away. I have to live with this. And so I have to learn how to live with it. And if I, just like any kind of training, if I don't check it, if I don't work on it, I don't constantly, train that portion of my brain, and there's going to be a new challenge that comes in, or a new thing, and I have to relearn something new, right? And as you're building your body, you get stronger and you get to that next peak and you're like, okay, and then you make it more difficult. And so now you got to rework your body again. You got to retrain. It's been a journey, and anybody that is going through this, I highly suggest reaching out to those trainers, whoever they are, the professionals, to learn how to train your brain, train yourself to work through these challenges, because they won't go away. You can put them in a bottle for so long, and that's going through that sprint. And I still have those. Like, sometimes I have to just push through it. I can't face that challenge in the moment, and I can, but at some point I have to look back and be like, okay, we need to clean up the mess we just left.
Right. Yeah. No, that's so true. I mean, when you were saying that, my mind jumped back to, when I was training for those races, or during those races where you had mechanical issues, you had your legs were just, exhausted, and you had, cramp in your body. So you're constantly going through these challenges. The same with business. Every day there's, or certainly once a week, there's some type of challenge, whether it be an employee issue, whether it be unhappy client, whether it be cash flow issues. So many things hitting people, and you need that strength, you need that mental toughness to get through those challenges. And unless you have that resource, whether it be a coach, whether it be some type of a mentor, then sometimes it's really tough getting through that. Or maybe you get through it for a short period of time, and then you talked about that long-term burnout starts happening. I remember when I was training for my races, and I was lucky enough and to have resources to be able to have, I had, I think, a bike coach, a swim coach, a nutrition coach. So I was lucky enough to have those resources, and maybe people don't quite have that network, or maybe the money to be able to do that. But if you're on some type of a budget, or you're struggling a little bit financially, what are other resources that people can maybe naturally go to help them through that?
So there are I know you're broadcasting all over. So your city, your county has resources, especially when it comes to mental health. There are crisis numbers to call if you're really to that point too. There's also networks, right? And so whether that be on, so I belong, I know it's going to sound funny, but I belong to a bunch of social media networks too. But, in this modern day, we're all on the internet, and they're kind of like my groups, and we all go through the same things and we chat about, and they're complete strangers, but hey, we're all experiencing this and we talk about it, and then, reach out to those folks. But as far as getting, that trainer, right? Or getting that professional, almost all areas have some kind of level of crisis management for people in that state. And then there's national crisis centers. There are, methods to get therapy if you need that, to help at least start you on the right path. There are a ton of books out there too. There's just a lot of different things that you can do if you're on a tight budget. But if anything, the first thing you need to do is, I would say that's free, is be kind to yourself. You are human, and there are going to be things and challenges that you might not necessarily be able to do on your own, and ask for help. And it could be as simple as that. Ask for help. And whether that be a friend, a mentor you do have, whoever that is, talk about it. And that's free.
Talk about, and also, I suppose, find out ways in which, what are the things that you're either passionate about or that completely de-stress you. Could be something as simple as going outside doing gardening. I used to love going out and doing my biking and running. And if I missed a day, then I just didn't feel almost like set up for success. In a day, I'd be out at 4:35 in the morning, do my run or bike, and I felt as though I'd conquered the world because my body was sore. And I think just mentally, I got that release where I wasn't able to think about work. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's other things you can think of as well.
One of the biggest things that one of my therapists taught me was journaling. When I was going through what I like to call my spirals, where it's like something will trigger it, and I'm just like thinking of all of the worst possible things that could happen. And so when that happens, I recognize my triggers now, and I journal about it, and I challenge the thoughts, in that journal. And it's something about like writing it down and you reading it, and you're like, oh, that is silly. Right. And it kind of stops that thinking very quickly. As far as de-stressing, I have the world's cutest dog. And he brings me such joy. But also it was one of the things I made important to my life, especially I lost my mother recently. So family. Glad to hear that. I make sure I make time, and not just time, but presence. In the moment, presence, face-to-face talking. And when I do that, I have even if it's 30 minutes with my husband and we're talking, like real conversation. Not like, hey, how was your day at work? It's like, we'll chat about the weird things in life. And that will just put me in a whole nother mood. And it helps our relationship too, because we're both being present for each other.
Going back to the workplace environment, if the leader, as the owner, recognizes that there is an underlying issue where they've been stressed or people starting to take a work off or just that pressure, then I'm sure they could look at resources to be able to help their team members to identify, and then maybe some ways and discuss them, and just be that resource internally within the company.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have to be careful, talk with your HR folks when it comes to your team members, because when it's employees and mental health, but leading with curiosity, I think, is a big one. I learned that one from Hope Smith at Plants Creative, and they lead with curiosity. I love that, because it, instead of judgment, why is this person not doing what I asked them to right away? You lead with that curiosity of, why did they do a 180 in a week? Why is this person acting this way? And asking those questions first before judgment. There are some really great resources that you can provide within benefits. I believe it's an EAP for their employees, to just even talking about people not having the ability to pay for therapy. There are those benefits that are out there that you can offer your employees. I've heard some really cool things where they've brought in somebody that they could just call. It's huge to be able to provide that to your people.
Jenny, been absolutely wonderful talking to you today, sharing your stories, sharing your message. What's the best way for people to reach out to you? You've obviously got a ton of knowledge, resources that people would probably be happy to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to contact you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can easily find me there. And then I don't know if you post my name up and maybe my link's there, but you can find me on LinkedIn really easily. And I'm also with the Boss Software Group, so you can find me there as well. And I'll also be at a couple conferences coming up, so you'll see me around.
Cool. Awesome. Jenny, pleasure talking to you today. Thanks again for sharing your story. And we look forward to getting you back on in the near future.
Same. Thank you for having me.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great Ironman mindset takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clickybeard. Love to get you, your friends, your employees to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe to your various podcast channels. Visit our website, commerciallandscaper.com or wilson-360.com. You could check out our digital courses. You could check out peer groups, coaching, my book, Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. And we just want you to have a pure, dead, brilliant day. And finally, thanks again to Boss Business Management Software, which is the ultimate cloud-based solution providing comprehensive insights and tools to optimize performance. Join the Boss community today and transform your business so you too can say, my boss is working for me. Cheers, everyone.